The Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Blockchain Superconference is coming to Dallas, Texas, February 16, 17, and 18 in 2018. If you know of a better way to get the latest insider knowledge about crypto, to hear directly from the top minds in this field, to interact personally with 800 fellow crypto lovers, hodlers, investors, miners, traders, developers, and founders, then I'd like to hear about it. If you don't, then you don't want to miss out. Register today for the Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Blockchain Superconference. Go to bitcoinsuperconference.com and register today as a super early bird to get the lowest rates on tickets and hotel rooms. That's bitcoinsuperconference.com.
Welcome to Almost Here, Round the Corner Future Technology podcast with Richard Jacobs. Future technologies poised to transform our lives for better or worse are the focus of this podcast. Almost Here means these technologies are now here and starting to be used, or just around the corner, from Bitcoin to artificial intelligence, 3D printing, blockchain, virtual reality, and more.
Hello and welcome everyone to the Future Tech Podcast. My name is Josh Thomas, and I'm here with Paul Puey from Edge. That's edgesecurer.co. Hey, Paul, how's it going?
Doing well. Thanks for having me.
Well, glad to have you. So Edge is, I understand it, is a mobile wallet and security platform for blockchain applications and assets. Is that correct?
Absolutely. You got it right.
So talk to me a little bit about the specific problems that Edge is looking to solve.
Yeah, so with the advent of blockchain technology, we've found that this new technology has created a fundamentally different requirement for security. For the first time ever, we've taken this little bit of data, which are called private keys in the blockchain world, and those private keys effectively allow us to hold money, to spend money, and the ownership of those keys is what assigns us the ability to spend that money. Now, the security of that now is paramount. It's no longer a username and password associated to money the way we would log into a bank. It's now this private key, and our ability to keep other people from gaining access to that is what allows us to hold value. So data now equals money for the first time ever. So now the security of that data now lies in the individual that holds its money. For the first time, it's no longer good enough to trust data with a central service, our storage provider and IT manager. So what we're seeing is this new, weird, awkward, intimidating feel in user experience with cryptocurrency and blockchain technology, where people have these keys that they've never ever seen before. And suddenly they're being asked to back up these keys or encrypt them so that way they're secured. And if they want to use them on multiple devices, they have to kind of copy and paste these keys onto different devices. And the problem that we're trying to solve is to remove a lot of that complexity, make it where key management, private key management across blockchain apps is as simple and familiar as just logging into an app or logging into a website. And we aim to make security invisible, securing those keys such that only the individual that has and is running our application or our platform controls their own money, controls their own data, but they do it with the familiarity of just simply logging in. So that's the main problem we're trying to solve, is the key management part of using cryptocurrency and using blockchain applications, removing those 12 to 24 words you have to write down, or those wallet.dat files that you have to back up and encrypt. All of that is hidden behind just a regular familiar interface in our platform.
It's interesting that you say that. We had somebody on the show a while back who just dropped a truth bomb on to me that I'd never really thought of. He said, and his name is slipping my mind, but the message wasn't. He said that the username and password is a 40-year-old technology. Can you believe that? 40 years of username and password, and after all that time, that's still the gold standard. And so, could you? First of all, do you have any thoughts or reactions to that? Have you ever really thought about the fact that the username and password's been around for 40 years?
Yeah, and I think it's going to continue to be around pretty much forever. The main thing that I think will go away is having 100 of them. That is the inherent problem with the username and password. Is not the username and password itself. It's that we have hundreds of them. Every single website, every single service, every single social media site that we access asks for a username and password. And we as humans can create very powerful and secure passwords. We cannot create hundreds of them. There's just no way. We're going to have duplicates and we're going to have very weak ones. So the goal is to have as few as possible, if not one or two. However, having just one or two very good passwords allows us to secure all the other ones, which we cannot remember and we cannot back up. This is a lot of what password managers do for us today. And many people in the security space will highly recommend that people use password managers, because you can't create a good password for your Google account, your Apple account, you name it, everything else, your Facebook, your Twitter. But a password manager effectively implements a very similar security model to what Edge does, in that it allows you to create one password, an encryption key. It's not just a password, it's an encryption key that encrypts all the other passwords, which can be just random. They can just be random letters and numbers, incredibly strong, with no duplication between one website and another. Effectively, that is what private keys for cryptocurrencies are. They're just random numbers. They're random strings of letters and numbers. And we effectively employ very similar technology, but inside of a wallet and inside of a platform that goes into all of the different blockchain apps. It's like taking a password manager and instead of it being a separate application that you have to use and copy and paste, instead it's baked into the app. It's part of the app, and you just log into the app as you normally would. And the thing I didn't mention, it wasn't in kind of like the one tagline of what we do at Edge, is we also, on top of there being kind of the normal credentials, we also build single sign-on. And that's actually one of the things that statement you made by that person you're talking to, it says, the username and password is 40-year-old technology. Well, single sign-on is not. And this, I think, is what will revolutionize the username and password, allowing one to be much more secure for many different sites. Now, granted, the current implementation of single sign-on, I think, is inherently broken, because we are using a single account on a single centralized service, such as Google or Facebook, to allow us to log into multiple different websites. Now, that feels like a good user experience, and it definitely is, but it's entrusting Google or Facebook with all of our accounts, meaning that a rogue employee inside one of those companies can effectively access our account on all the other servers. That is inherently broken. What Edge has built is an encrypted single sign-on, where much like the private keys that are encrypted and only accessible by that user for our Edge wallet, the single sign-on in Edge also allows the same user access to multiple apps, but only the user has access to those accounts, not Edge and not the app developers. And that's a fundamental shift in the way we do single sign-on, and no one else is doing this. So this takes the concept of securing keys for one application, such as our own wallet, and really extends its utility across the entire blockchain ecosystem. And you'll notice there is no true blockchain wallet. When I say true, I mean one where the user controls the keys. There is no true blockchain wallet that lets you log in with Google or Facebook. And there's a reason for that, because they're not going to put your keys in the hands of a third party. It would just be entirely too insecure. However,
so let me just make one quick comment about that. A lot of exchanges, for example, and I know that's not a wallet, but the vast majority of them have the Google two-factor authentication. The Google login, the Facebook login, where you just mash the button and it takes your other data. Okay, I just want to clarify that.
Correct. Two-factor is a second factor, so it's your username, password, plus this other thing. And that is a very valuable piece of security functionality, that I would agree with. But the replacement of your login credentials, your regular username and password with single sign-on, is something that no true Bitcoin or cryptocurrency wallet will ever entrust to Google and to Facebook. And actually, I don't even know that exchanges do that. So this, however, is something that we can easily apply, because our single sign-on is encrypted data that only the user has access to, and that being the fundamental shift. So this is what we're excited about in our platform.
There was an analogy that you were starting to make there a couple of minutes back, and I just didn't want to interrupt you because you were on a roll there to saying a bunch of good stuff. But let's just go back and unpack this for a moment. The password managers, and for those of you that aren't familiar, an example of one that I use is called LastPass, and it's just a browser extension that you can go on multiple different browsers, and it saves all your passwords, and you just have basically some form of a single sign-on, although it may not be exactly the same. I can say personally, when I discovered LastPass, it changed my life because I didn't have to remember all of these passwords, because it remembers and it encrypts the password for you. You can generate a strong random one. You just have to remember your LastPass to log in to LastPass, the password.
Right.
Now, the downside to that is if you have all these super strong passwords and you're away from your computer, then you don't know how to log in, and so there are some limitations there. Could you talk to me just very quickly about what are some of the limitations of this single sign-on and the way that you're encrypting this? Is it specific to a device, or what is it that you're doing that's really allowing you to just do a username and password and have it be so secure?
LastPass, first of all, you had mentioned something about it being a single sign-on. So LastPass in and of itself is not single sign-on. It's just simply a data store of usernames and passwords and some personal information as well. And they encrypt and back up the data using regular credentials of username and password. And so, like I said, it's very similar to what we do. Now, we realize, though, unlike LastPass, we are starting from the viewpoint that we are securing money, not usernames and passwords. So we're taking the hardest things to secure, the type of data that people want to steal the most, money. So from that viewpoint, we're throwing much more at the security model than what I think LastPass is doing. And when we think about security, we think about it not just from the outside attacker trying to access your device, but we also think about it from the viewpoint of the user being their worst enemy, user error themselves. So factoring both, because if a user loses data and that data is money, that's just as bad as it getting stolen. So some of the things that we do differently than LastPass. Well, number one, it's baked into the app. So you're not copying and pasting data the way you would in LastPass, username and password. It's baked into the application, both ours and any of our partners. Number two, we take the security model a little bit of a step further and employ and this gets a little bit technical, but we actually dynamically tune the strength of the encryption with the strength of the user's device. So the ability to brute force a password is, of course, dependent on how good the password is, right? If you have 6 digits that are only lowercase letters, that's going to be far easier than if you have upper, lower, or you have, like, say, 4 or 5 random words. However, to make it harder to brute force a password, a commonly used technique is password hashing, where you make every brute force attempt harder and more CPU and memory intensive. Now, we actually use a password hashing algorithm that's very strong called scrypt, and people might be familiar with that from Litecoin mining. But we dynamically tune the parameters much, much, much higher than any miner would ever use. And we dynamically tune it to the strength of the user's device. So people on stronger devices actually get stronger password hashing than those on weaker devices. So that's one thing that we do that isn't present at all on other products such as password managers. As well, we give users an easy way to get back access to their data, such as methods of password recovery, which are non-existent in most other encryption tools. So inspired by blockchain and Bitcoin, we use a split key mechanism to recover passwords, one that's held by our infrastructure and one that the user sends to themselves. So that's an additional piece of what we call kind of user-based security. That's a very important nugget.
Yeah, I mean, it's obvious that you're taking security very seriously here, and that's it's so important. You made a great point about the fact that money is the thing that everybody wants to steal the most. And I had heard mentioned not too long ago that all of the hackers in all of the world have stopped, trying to scam in any other way, and they've focused all of their efforts towards hacking and stealing crypto.
Within the crypto space, they're focusing all their efforts onto the centralized services. And there's a huge reason for that. You get everybody's money. But if you get into one person's device, you only get whatever they have, and you only get whatever they happen to have on that device at that time. And so this is a fundamental reason why we think cryptocurrencies are going to shift the way we do general security. And that's what we aim to be at the forefront of, is the fact that cryptocurrencies have made it where we as individuals should secure our own data. It's too dangerous to put it in the hands of a third party, a data bank, because of that incentive for hackers. Why try to hack your phone and get whatever you have there when I can hack an exchange and get everybody's money? It might be harder to get into, but once I'm in, I get everything. That's the fundamental issue with the way we do data security today, is that we primarily centralize it. Now, before cryptocurrencies, it was just data. It was an Equifax-like hack where I get social security numbers and whatnot. But with cryptocurrency, I get actual money right away, anonymously. It instantly has value. I don't have to sell it. I don't have to commit fraud. It instantly has money and it's anonymous. That's why we're now building tools that create this new security model. That's actually the foundation of our company's name. The reason why we call ourselves Edge is because we believe in in the edge security model, securing data at the edges of the net, where people are, where our own devices are. So I'm excited about cryptocurrency. I always have been. It's what drove me into this, into creating a startup. But I'm equivalently excited about this new security model that cryptocurrency has driven and motivated, and how we will be able to use it with general purpose applications as well.
Excellent. So tell me a little bit about, I always like to ask this question, and I always get interesting answers, but the future of security with regard to, username and password and sign-on experiences. Where do you see this particular area of technology innovating and evolving over the next 5 years?
Yeah, I think it's exactly what we were talking about before. We're going to still have a username and password, but we'll have far fewer of them, and we're not going to use them on a super frequent basis. So I think you're already seeing that logins to services are starting to become more innovative than just simply everything having a username and password. So single sign-on in the centralized world is helping that, but also biometric as well. And once again, biometric has its limitations. Biometric is great for logging into a very specific device that you've used before. It's not great if you say, I'm going to throw everything off my back and I don't have nothing and walk up to a random computer and log in biometrically. I fundamentally think that will never happen. That would be the gigantic security flaw that would easily compromise everything that we would secure in that method. So I don't think biometric will ever be what I call the initial login credentials. The recovery, it'll never be the recovery of data on any arbitrary device. But it's great, such as on your iPhone or Android, where you've logged in before. I don't want to enter my password every single time I use an app. I'll just biometric log in, because biometric is a great way, combined with secure elements on the phone, to unlock data unlock an encryption key that's buried in the phone for data that I have used before. Excellent.
Yeah, Paul Puey from edgesecure.co. We're going to wrap here for today. I really appreciate this. Is some interviews are technical and some of them are idea based, and you really dug into the details on this. Appreciate it. Any quick final thoughts before we go?
No, other than really appreciate the opportunity to chat, and looking forward to the super conference. Our team's going to be over there. Obviously, for anyone listening to the podcast and headed over to Dallas, we look forward to and I'm excited about talking to people in the community.
Very good. Thanks again for joining us. This has been Paul Puey from Edge. You can learn more at edgesecure.co. Thanks for joining us here on the Future Tech Podcast. We'll see you next time, everyone.
The Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Blockchain Superconference is coming to Dallas, Texas, February 16, 17, and 18 in 2018. If you know of a better way to get the latest insider knowledge about crypto, to hear directly from the top minds in this field, to interact personally with 800 fellow crypto lovers, hodlers, investors, miners, traders, developers, and founders, then I'd like to hear about it. If you don't, then you don't want to miss out. Register today for the Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Blockchain Superconference. Go to bitcoinsuperconference.com and register today as a super early bird to get the lowest rates on tickets and hotel rooms. That's bitcoinsuperconference.com.
You have been listening to Almost Here, Around the Corner Future Technology podcast with Richard Jacobs. Subscribe to this podcast, post a review to discover more future technologies that are poised to transform our lives for better or worse, such as Bitcoin, artificial intelligence, 3D printing, blockchain, virtual reality, and more.